This year, our conference theme, The Future Work Trilogy, New Gen Artificial Intelligence and Sustainability, reflects the evolving landscape of work and the forces shaping it. We had a wonderful day, beginning with several panel discussions, leadership panels, and lucky draws, and insightful networking sessions on day one. The discussions from day one left us with a powerful message that the future isn't something we are waiting for. It's already here, and we are living it. And it's our duty to transform it. It's something we are actively building today. With rapid advancements in technology, artificial intelligence integration, and a new generation stepping into the workforce, transformation is no longer a choice. It's a necessity. IAC 2025 serves as a pioneering platform where academia and industry come together to discuss, debate, and design the roadmap for the future of work. Today's agenda is filled with thought-provoking sessions, including Giftagoo with CEOs, fireside chat sessions, interactive panel discussions, and of course, the much-awaited awards ceremony. And for those feeling lucky, don't forget the lucky draw at the end of day. Let's make today another insightful, engaging, and inspiring day. Wishing you all a fantastic day too at IAC 2025. May we all have a huge round of applause for the beginning of the day too. So moving on, ambition, innovation, and adaptability define the new generation workforce. But how can organizations evolve and meet the expectations while ensuring productivity and efficiency? Our third leadership panel topic is Generation Next, redefining work in the age of ambition. And our panelists will shed light on this transformative shift. First and foremost, I welcome on stage Mr. K.S. Bakshi, Group Head HR, InterGlobe Enterprises, who will be moderator for this session. Next, we have Mr. Sunil Sinha, Head of L&D, Bank of Baroda. Next, we have Dr. Subir Verma, Director at Fore School of Management. May we all have a huge round of applause as we welcome the first leadership panel of the day. Dr. Mathew Jones, Director, Great Lakes Institute of Management. Mr. Sudeep Dev, CHRO and Senior VP, Volvo Echer, Commercial Vehicles Limited. Ms. Tripti Nagria, HR Head, India Galderma. Mr. Pawan Kumar Singh, GM, L&D at Punjab National Bank. I request you all to take your seats. Mr. Bakshi, over to you.
Morning, everyone. And once again, happy Valentine's Day. She said it so beautifully, I thought I must also say that. Thank you, Subir. Thank you, People Labs team, for having us here. It's such a wonderful panel, esteemed co-panelist, right? And the topic for today is very apt. It's in continuation to what we discussed yesterday. And it's a very nice start for today's session. One thing I must say, the panelists that we have here is very diversified. It is not typical CHRO's panel we saw in most of these sessions yesterday. We have fair representations from public sector, right? We have the two gentlemen here. We have two gentlemen from academia. I have two colleagues, including Tripti from corporate. We have a representation from financial sector, from manufacturing, from marketing, distribution, right? And of course, I represent travel, transport, and hospitality, right? So I'm sure we will be able to take best use of the wisdom that each of the panelists here. And thank you everyone for joining this thing. All of you were here yesterday, or rather most of you would have been here yesterday. It was a very power-packed discussion, starting from the inaugural event to the various, I think there was 4 leadership panel discussions. Most of the speakers were really spot on when they were talking in relation with the theme of this conference, which is the emergence of trilogy of Gen X, artificial intelligence, and sustainability. We also had yesterday a very interesting session by the Gen Z themselves, and it was good to hear straight from the Generation Next, right, in terms of what are their expectations and what is that they're doing. Today, we will dwell further, taking the from their experience and their wisdom in terms of what is this Gen Next that we say, and all of us understand what this Gen Next is, all right? What are the few things that we have been doing at our workplace which helps to manage their aspirations? If you see, there are 2 key words or 2 key phrases in today's session. One is the Gen Next, which all of us know. It is the emerging generation, right, of new leaders, new workforce, new innovators, new disruptors, new leaders, right, new change makers who are always looking for a purposeful life, who are always looking for personal growth. They want everything to be seen from the lens of innovation and technology, right? And obviously they have a different way of looking at life. Traditional life is no longer fulfilling for them. In view of that, we have a second catchy phrase in today's theme, which is the age of ambition, or it's also called as the era of ambition, which simply means what is that this new generation wants today. Not that the earlier generation did not want any of these things, not that they were not aspirational, right? I also belong to the earlier generation. Most of us sitting here belong to that. No, Subir, you are Alpha? Okay, which will always continue, right? Which will always continue. Okay. But there's something unique, there's something different about the Gen Z or the millennials, and now we're talking about Gen Alpha soon getting into the workforce. And that is what in today's session we'll try to decode. What is that which makes them totally different? What is that which really helps them to, continually hooked with the organization purpose, organization culture, organization philosophy. But we as a leader, we as a manager, how do we also fulfill their needs, their aspirations, the speed with which they want to work, traditional way of working, which they may not be so, it does not excite them any further. And hence some of the questions that I'll be asking you, and sorry if I put you in some of the spot in terms of asking questions, right? But we would expect sharing your experience, examples from your industry or your workplaces, and I hope to have this meaningful conversation. Just a time check, Subrat or the organizers, we started at 11 o'clock, so 11:15 is okay? Oh, we have the timer over here, so we have time. Okay, great. I'll be referring to my phone. If you see referring to my phone, please don't assume that I'm checking on my emails, right? But I'll just refer to some notes. But before that, I want to ask my fellow panelists and my dear friends, participant here, few questions that I have. You would have heard slangs being used by Gen Z or millennials, right? Have you heard of those slang? Okay, let me ask the first question, which is very, very easy, and the first slang, right? GOAT, what it means? Greatest of all time. GOAT, G, all time. I knew that. Anyway, you are Gen Alpha, you said. Okay, let me ask you a little more difficult now. LIT, L-I-T. As a slang for Gen Z, what it means, L-I-T, lit. No one here? Anybody here? Oh my God, I thought this room is half filled up with Gen Z. Okay, by the way, I also didn't know, I asked my daughter, I have two daughters, one is millennial and one is Gen Z. I said, Anvi, please help me with some slangs, and this is what I got from her. And by the way, I also got to know it yesterday only. It means super cool or exciting. Look, these are the generation which does not believe in creating long sentences, right? Writing, speaking, and something. So this conference is lit, or this event is lit. It's super cool, exciting, great. Okay. SUS, S-U-S. Have you heard of it? S. Anybody here? Yeah, please say. Suspicious. You look sus. So rather than saying you look suspicious, you look shady, you look sus. No, but this is a fact. We have to deal with this. Okay. Gatekeeping. Slang, gatekeeping, what it means. Okay, here. Yeah, no, please. Somebody was saying something? Controlling. Or yeah, you said actually, huh? Keeping to oneself. Now look, we have real Gen next speaking, right? Keeping it to yourself, not sharing, right? Keep it hiding, secreting. So you are gatekeeping. Rather than saying full thing, you are gatekeeping. That means you're not telling me everything, you're hiding something. Okay. Slay. S-L-A-Y. Killing it. And what it means? In their slang. Killing it. You have done it so well, right? After this session, I must be saying for each one of you, you are slaying, right? You're killing this session. You're doing it so well. Okay? But these are the realities. No? I mean, these are some of the examples. Of course, there's a whole long list of various slangs. And by the way, it keeps on adding. It's not there in any dictionary. But of course, you do Google search, you do ChatGPT, you'll get to know all this. But this is what the reality is, and this is how I thought the context with which we need to now come or discuss, right? Okay, let me start, Pawan, with you, and probably I'll not go in any specific order. Pawan, the question that I want to ask you, you work for a very big public sector, Punjab National Bank, what, 1 lakh plus?
Yes, sir.
1 lakh plus employees. This is a big thing. You take care of the learning and development, right, which in itself is a big portfolio. I want to understand from you, how do you think the Gen Next is different from previous generations, right? Now, everybody thinks they are Gen Next, but then Gen Next doesn't think for us, we are Gen Next, obviously we are, for them, we are previous generation. How do you think what makes Generation Next different from previous generation in the workplace?
Thank you. At the outset, I will first express my gratitude to the organizers for giving this opportunity to be present here. Bakshi, as you asked, there are some 4-5 points which I picked up. First is digital first tech native mindset. Because the generation we are talking about, Gen Next, they are born with smartphones, social media, AI in the place. So they have got a good adaptability and rapid adaptability, but shorter attention span. They need flexibility, not stability. They care more for flexibility. Now then, purpose-driven work. Gen Z6 meaning in their work, whether they are contributing for the society, what is the purpose of the assignment they have been given. It is not just how much time they have spent. They care for the DEI. They will accept lower pay, but if their purpose of their assignment is making some impact in the society, some ambition for them. Then it's entrepreneurial spirit. Earlier, the person who is joining job or who is an employee of either private sector or public sector, they were not thinking in entrepreneurial way. They were just, we are employee, assigned some job and we have to fulfill that. But now they don't want that. They want flexibility in their job. They want to change. They don't want to stick to one of single employer. They want some mobility in their job also. They want to experiment something and make some impact. Then instant feedback. Earlier, there was a system in some organization, it is still there, that performance appraisal is being done at the end of the year. But they don't accept it, they reject it. They want immediate feedback. Live feedback they want, and feedback is not only downwards, it has to be upward also. There is a need to have 360-degree feedback. In our organization, in Punjab National Bank, we have developed some digital capabilities to address these issues, because we are having more than 1 lakh employees and we have multi-generational layers. We have boomers also, we have Gen X employees also, millennial also, and then now Gen Z or next gen employees also. Then we have vast geographical areas. So it is becomes very difficult. Therefore, we have a structure, and now this Gen Next employees, they find it difficult to adapt that traditional work culture and management styles. If we classify a little bit that what are the driving force or motivating forces, so for boomers, that is the persons who were born before 1964, they were liking job security. That was the prime factor, stability, and they were loyal to their employer. But when Gen X comes, so they liked independent work ethic, hierarchy, and promotions. That were the motivating factor. Millennials were liking work-life balance, meaningful work, job hoping for growth. But now Gen X, they prefer mental health, flexibility, and purpose-driven work. If I want to correlate it with famous Maslow's need hierarchy theory, that is for to motivate individual person. So that says that if some lower needs are satisfied, then other layer of need will start motivating the person. Same way, society or country as such has fulfilled some of the needs by way of technological advancement and all. So this, the changes, these are natural and should be accepted in an easy way.
Thanks, Pawan. I think you have very nicely captured the key characteristics of the Gen X, which makes them a little different from the earlier generation. I'll come back to you shortly in terms of asking you 1 or 2 examples, specific examples, in terms of the challenges that you must have faced in your organization and how did you go about it, right? But Tripti, now let me come to you, and sir, Subir sir, after this I'll come to you. I want to understand from you the same question. He spoke about at workplace in corporate, but let's understand how we do it in educational institution, right? But Tripti, before that, just a continuation from here, did you find any challenges in managing Gen Z or millennials, which is typically are the current Gen X in any of the industry and the corporates? And if yes, 1 or 2 examples of how did you manage it?
First of all, thank you, KS. I think brilliant topic, very relevant to us, to the audience in the group, and congratulations People Lab for coming up with such an fantastic initiative to bring everybody together. Like you mentioned, see, as the generation has shifted, organizations have been much slower to shift because organizations have been in the system for a very long time. And given the expectation changes, as you pointed out beautifully, organizations haven't shifted their systems and processes or policies or expectation from employees so fast. So there is a mismatch in terms of what is the organization's expectation, what are the boss's expectations, and what is the expectation of the new joinee or a generation next or now a millennial from the organization. So I think one is, as you pointed out, as you also pointed out, right? Like slay, sus. They do not have as much patience. It's the age of instant gratification. So I open my Netflix, I don't have to wait for another week to watch another episode. I will watch the episode when I want to watch it, right? I want to finish a season in 2 days' time, if not one day, one evening, right? So I think that is one challenge that organization face in managing, first of all, attracting and retaining this kind of talent. Because there is a need of instant gratification to say, what do I get? Job is not only for money that I do, it's for much more things. So they're looking at, okay, I get a salary in doing this job, but what more am I getting? Am I getting recognized? So do we have reward and recognition system? Do we have managers who have emotional quotient to manage them? So as leaders, we cannot expect that they will do their job and it's fine. As leaders, we need to shift our expectations to say that what is it that they are also looking at. And in very near future, a large part of workforce is going to get filled by them. It will put pressure back onto the organizations and leaders to change. Because still today we can choose, right? We can still choose to say, I have 2 other members in my team who don't need it. Why does a new member in my team needs it? However, we need to move back from a mindset to say, what do this generation need? How I can enable my leadership to accept this generation. So one is ensuring leadership change in individuals is a challenge. Managers, so now managers are very task oriented. Managers need to move away. Task orientation needs to remain because all of us need to perform, organizations need to make money. Along with task orientation, how do they manage the team from an emotional standpoint, from a support standpoint, like you mentioned, feedback as well, feed forward as well. How are we giving that opportunity? So that is one challenge that we face. The second challenge that we face is that we all have hierarchies, we all have promotion systems, 2 years, 2.5 years, etc., which is shifting now. It used to be 4-5 years, and now it's become 2 years is a norm. People want to get promoted. So there has to be a bridge between what is possible from an organization system point of view and what is the expectations from a growth point of view. So that's a challenge. And I'll give you an example. So at Galderma, we are a dermatology organization. Our target group is 18 to 30 year young females. We're moving to male segment also. E-commerce has become a very big channel. So 3 years back, we hired an e-com manager. 3 years later, the manager has become head of India for e-commerce and also supporting Asia Pacific region for e-commerce. Now that's the ambition. And if organization is not able to provide, this organization is not able to provide, there are many other organizations who are able to provide. So how do we tweak our internal processes and systems? Because it needs to also look fair to others. Right. We cannot look unfair to others. So I think that's a challenge that we all need to tweak internally.
Sure. Thank you, Tripti. I have a follow-up question, but I'll come back to you. And I want to understand from you, since you are a multinational consumer industry, you represent consumer industry, multinational, how it is something that is coming from the global headquarters or something that we do differently in India. I'll come back to you on this. Dr. Subir, right? Very quickly, I want to understand from you, in the academia space, right? What are the differentiator you see between the Gen X and the earlier generations?
Very good morning to all of you, and I'm grateful to Dr. Subrat Kumar and for all of us for being here. I'm in a very peculiar situation. Right now, I'm sitting with a person who is part of the Gen X for us. Tripti had been our student at MDI, and she studied alongside Subrat. I think academia is one place where we have learned to be flexible, we have learned to be adaptive to ensure that learning happens with the students. I think, and I can be personal, I can take several examples of the way we have been trying to acclimatize ourselves and adapt ourselves to the, I would say, the learning style of the students, which has changed from one generation to another generation. A personal takeover here. I was already a lecturer in Delhi University when I went to IIM Ahmedabad to do my PhD. In IIM Ahmedabad, for the first 1.5 years, you have to do a coursework. Some of the people who were studying with me were brothers and sisters of my students. And I think I learned most from them than I could have learned from my teacher over there. Right? What does that tell you? It tells you that Gen Next is not about the age, it is about the mindset. And if you have the willingness to learn, and by the way, I think we have, as faculty, we learn the most from our students. I'm sure Dr. Sunil is there, Dr. Mathew is there, Professor Rajesh is there. All of us learn more from our students. However, we have seen that these students' learning style has actually changed. And if I can use some of the taxonomies there, and one of the most famous is the revised taxonomy of Bloom. I think earlier the focus of faculty was more in terms of teaching them, telling them, making them remember and at max understand. And then we would assess them, we would test them on that parameters. Now students would like not only to analyze, they would like to apply and create. Which means that as educators, we now need to move on from just lecture and case-based teaching to something that is more project-based, that is more assignment-based. And our assessment of learning should also gear itself to this change in the learning style of students. I mean, it's very easy to stay. And by the way, we always keep on hearing that the attention span of this generation has come down. There was a study by Microsoft in 2015 where the attention span had just come down by 10 seconds. It's not much. It's just about the fact that what do we have in order to engage with them? And this was there from very beginning. And as faculty, we know that if we don't engage with our students, we lose them in the next 2 minutes. Right? So I think we are blessed in a way that we deal with different generations. But then we also need to understand as faculty that probably we need to change the way by we are teaching, and above all, the way we are assessing our students, which is still based upon idea of memory and is reproduction.
So sir, I mean, you very nicely again brought this distinction between how we deal with the student, right? I'll come back to you with another thought. When it comes to the faculty, when it comes to the management, when it comes to the other staff members of the institute, academic institute, how do you manage, Gen Next versus earlier generation, right? So students are all given examples of Gen Next, right? That's a given thing, obviously. Very rarely that we would find millennials or Gen X as a student, right? Possibly yes, but rarely. I'll come back to that. How do we manage like industry, like corporate, like they said, right? How do we do that? Sudeep, let me come to you now. You represent an organization which is very well known, Volvo, Echer, which is into manufacturing largely, and obviously related is the sales and distribution. And we also know the fact that some of the things that Gen X wants is the hybrid working or some of the things which is not really possible in the industry like manufacturing, in the industry like travel or healthcare. You have to be at the workplace. I mean, it's difficult to do such jobs sitting from somewhere else. So I want to understand from you how we manage in the traditional industry where you work, how do we really manage the expectation of Gen Next? And again, any one or two examples will be helpful. Yeah.
Thank you, KS. I think this is very apt and very challenging. I think most of the manufacturing sector, they are facing to how to, retain, Gen Z and typically they are not very keen to work in the manufacturing sector. I think, what we have done an experiment last 4-5 years, and what we did, when I looked my employee aging data, it was my employee was aging, it was around 37, 38 years of the average age. Then I took a challenge that, let me bring some young talent in the organization. And we started, recruiting from all IITs and good B schools for my R&D, because we have a huge number of R&D facilities in India, because we have to be very innovative, we have to be very aligned with the new changes, the norms with the organization. I think you all are aware of the way that emission norms is changing. Now we are talking about LNG, CNG, hydrogen with IC engine, electromobility. We don't know where it will land. And we need to innovate. We need to be, continuously work on those technologies. We need to have the talent for building, to do this R&D for the future product. And when we recruit for the manufacturing, sometimes it's a big challenge, we put up a plant in last 3 years in Bhopal with more than 100,000 capacity of the truck and bus. And what we did, we implemented the smart manufacturing. It's more than 500 acre of land, and we put, what they need. They don't want, monotonous kind of a work. We put a cycle track. We put a, complete, cafeteria that can serve their need. And whenever I go for, addressing those young talent, and I have a very good legacy of, building talent in the organization. We, entire my CXOs, they have grown within the organization. Either they joined as a GT or management trainee. And my retention is almost 85% in the leadership level. I have at least 2 levels of succession planning for all critical and hypo talent. When I share, see this guy, he's joined as a GT, now today he's a CXO. And they ask only one question back to me. So how long it took to become a CXO? I said, 20 years. Then they are, again they ask me a question. Sir, we don't have a 20 years to become the CXO. Tell me how I can become a CXO, in 10 years or 12 years maximum. So this is a challenge which we are facing. And we address those challenges, we bring some young management trainee and postgraduate engineering trainee. We send them different across the world to give the exposure how the R&D works, how the manufacturing facilities works. And then we bring them back. And again, we put them under the challenging role. And we are giving them the role of leadership. And we make the career path very easy for them. At least they should meet the aspiration. I cannot sit and say, no, it will take only 20 years or 25 years to become a CXO. Nobody will stay. Nobody will continue with the organization. And we made the policy aligned to meet the Gen Z. Today my entire workforce, more than 40% is Gen Z. And my average is 33 years. And every year we are becoming 1 year younger the way I have recruited. When I took the decision that I will recruit only young talent, I stopped recruiting any senior level position. I gave the replacement from my existing talent. There was a lot of backlash from my colleagues. They're saying, Sudeep, you're taking a big risk. But I took it as an opportunity. I converted it to the opportunity. And today my retention is more than 85%. My only one urge with the all, academic institutions that you have to groom the talent to, to meet the long-term aspirations of the organization. They should, sometimes I got a feedback from, a student, so they taught us that you should stay 3 to 4 years in the organization, then you move on. Then will you get a better exposure, better compensation, better career growth. But this is not true. You have to stay, you have to learn, you have to grow in the organization. And we all have grown the same way. And this is the way we are doing, I think, and it's paying us, in a good way.
Thank you, Sudeep. And I know, especially for the manufacturing sector, it's a little difficult, to have. And you spoke about the flexibility. Achha, but before that, you just mentioned one expectation from the academia. I'm sure academia would also have a lot of expectation from industry. We saw yesterday also both academia and industry exchanging some notes in terms of expectation. And I just thought I'll highlight one point which I really like about People Labs, and since I have been associated with this IAC for last 3-4 years, they actually make a note of all these observations, right? Right? I'm sure somebody in the hall would be making a note of it, or it is getting video recorded. And they actually come back to us as an industry, or they go back to the academia also in terms of documented process. This is what has been captured, and you know that. I think as a speaker, we often say and then we move on in our life, but someone has to really stitch it together, someone has to really put it together. And that's where I think people like this organization, People Labs, are taking a lead and doing a good job. And I hope others should also be doing, because there has to be some mediator who brings both these sides together. Otherwise, each one of us will say our expectations, right, and then move on. But great point. Dr. Jones, if I just come to you and taking this point of flexibility, Sudeep spoke about the flexibility, and you are the one again representing a very unique situation here. You have worked many years in corporate, 18 years I believe, right, starting with SCL and then other known companies, including you worked with a Japanese company, right, and now in academia. How do you see this flexibility can be used, right, which is what one of the big aspirations or expectation of Gen Next, in terms of creating that balance between collaboration and sustaining the organization culture? You want to talk about from academia side, you want to talk about from corporate side, just feel free. Just want to know your thoughts on this.
All right. First of all, good morning, everybody. Thank you to Dr. Subrat and the People Labs team for organizing this event. Thank you for all the panelists. Having been on both sides, the corporate and in academics, I want to speak right now for academics, because when I was in corporate, that was 2 decades ago. That is history, ancient history, actually. So I'll just stick with the academics part, because my co-panelists will be more suited for talking about what corporate wants. Now, as administrators in educational institutions or faculty members, what we've observed is that we are in this strange dilemma. Regulations require us to follow a certain pattern, and within a certain boundary, we can do some innovations, right? For example, a simple thing like end-term examinations, which may range between 35 to 40% of the weightage of the assessments, total assessments, has to be in a written format. Now, some of our younger faculty have said that, why must this be so? Many of our students ask us, why must this be so, right? But we have certain constraints within which we have to operate. Our justification is that it is not important just to give bullet points and give an answer. You must have reflection power, you must be able to put things into context and so on, and therefore you have a written component. But Gen Z doesn't think like that, and that's what we are increasingly realizing, right? The other thing that we find a challenge with is getting them to understand. In fact, I believe what Dr. Sudeep said, in defense of academic institutions, we do not generally say that you should only stay for 3-4 years. We tell them actually that the longer you stay, you give an indication of stability, which is what really helps you grow in an organization and helps them to come back to us again and again and again, right? If a student just stays for 2 years and takes off, the company feels that we are not preparing them enough or helping them to think well enough. Now, so therefore, we are telling them that mobility is important, and they feel it themselves. Like Tripti mentioned, or you mentioned, sir, nobody wants to work for 10 years in a particular organization, right? They're all experimentative people. Generation Next is very experimentative. I mean, just take cuisine as an example. We have so many options for cuisine nowadays that nobody wants to go to the same restaurant or even go to the same, or have the same cuisine 2 weeks in a row. So Generation Next is an experimentative generation, and we as academicians have this burden of living up to their expectations also. In corporate, it is much easier because you all can do quick pivoting. For academics, it's a little slower because we have to follow certain rules and regulations, and therefore the change is slightly slower. Having said that, standalone institutions like ours or Dr. Subir's, we are much able to pivot faster, compared to business schools within university systems. There, a lot more time is required to make that change in direction. Now, coming back to Dr. Case's point about flexibility. Flexibility is something that they all demand, there is a lot of flexibility that we have built into the system as we go along. For example, feedback. When we were students, or when you were students, I don't think the institution took feedback from you more than maybe once, or if at all. Today, we have every term, we have 2 feedbacks, which means in a span of about 6 to 10 weeks, we have 2 feedbacks taken from the students. But they want to know, what are we doing with the feedback? Is the feedback just for formality's sake, or are you really doing something with it? So as far as flexibility is concerned, they come up with a lot of infrastructure-related, food-related, academics-related stuff, and it's up to us to take that feedback, record it, and translate it into action, and then close the loop by telling them in the next meeting what we have done with the feedback. Right? So that is where the flexibility comes in, and they're not happy when they give their feedback and we take like 3 months to do something about it. They want it to be solved in the next couple of weeks. So that's the challenge as academicians we face, and I think most of us are very, very much up to the challenge. And the last thing that I'd just like to add before I hand the conversation back, I think it's a good idea for academic leaderships to have a little bit of reverse mentoring from the students. So we have student councils, but they're not really involved too much in the strategy or the policy making, etc. Going forward, I want to take a deep look at that, of having these people in the boardrooms to help design things which may be more suitable for generation next. Thank you.
Right. In fact, that reminds me, yesterday, if you recollect, we were having this conversation in the youth panel, and this gentleman, I think Vaibhav from Nestle, he spoke about how Nestle has created a Gen Z council in the organization, right? So we talk about various other councils, but that he shared that example. And that's where I think various organizations are really started redefining, and that's why I'm coming back to the theme now, redefining the workplace strategies. Because that's a given thing, because 5-6 years down the line, we'll have more and more of Gen Z and maybe some Gen Alpha now started coming into the this thing. Yesterday we heard Tripti also saying ki, she has what? Chief Technology Officer, 28 years old, right? CXO is a term in our parlays we use for someone who is 20 or 25 years of experience. But then she shared in her company. Now that's where the whole paradigm is shifting. Sunil, I want to come next to you. Least you think I have forgotten you. You are sitting closest to me, but I am not, right? Okay. You again represent a very big banking, right? Bank of Baroda, and you have been there, life of over there. And you manage the L&D function over there. I want to understand from you, what is that your organization doing in terms of redefining L&D space in order to meet the aspirations or the challenges of Gen X? 1 or 2 examples again will be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, KS. I think being with such an esteemed panelist and also speaking in the last, it's a privilege because I can take note of many of the items and I can just summarize and I can throw it back. But just a check point of view, let me throw some questions to the audience that how many of you are, I'm saying how many of you are, and that question is not to Dr. Subir, please. How many of you are from Gen G? Raise your hand. How many of you are? So the audience is not from Gen G.
You'll see more hands, like Dr. Subir.
No, but the next question is, how many of you feel that you are Gen Z? Feel. Yeah. So majority of including sir, we feel that we are always young, agile, alert, always being there in the state of being, and therefore we exist, right? Having said so, And since a lot of things had been discussed with regard to staying relevant, how the organization is not able to keep the pace, how it is about the issue of mindset more, it is more of the flexibility, and it existed all the time. So we should not be going by the number per se, but at the same time, I must congratulate and compliment Dr. Subrat for having this topic, because this topic has one of the most important element. Why I am saying so? Let's look into some context. We are having around 64 crore working population in the country. Out of that, around 16, 17 crore comes from Gen Z. Gen Z population as such in the country is around 37, 38 crores. Youngest population, that is even more than the population of US. By 2030, we are going to be more than 20 crores Gen Z population. Again, 5 crore will be added by 2035. And that is why when we are discussing this topic today, we are preparing for the next 10 years. At least, this is the beginning. And by the time, Gen Alpha will also be joining us. So let's put it in that context, then it will be really very much interesting, besides being challenging. Now coming to the question, what case you asked me, that what Bank of Baroda had been doing, and let me put it some example straight away, so that this is how Gen Z wants actually. Let me put it, because Tripti talked about the instant gratification. So that you get it, because we have, realized this issue, I would say in the public sector space much, much before. When the young officers, they join, we call it DROs in our organization, directly recruited officers. I asked them, what do you don't like about us? And answer was very clear, that we don't want to be taught. Why I'm saying it is different from the academia, because we are in the process of adult learning, very, very challenging here. And the group and the cohort is very, very mixed. In a group of 30, 35 class, you are having a person from 45 years, 50 years, because it is a group of, say, branch manager, we are having role-based program going on. We call it position proficiency program. So we are there to upskill their knowledge, etc. They want something to be done immediately, on the fingertips. And really, we worked very hard. 3 years, 4 years back, we started working on it. And we have one of the best AI-based chatbot in India, in the organization for the employees. We call it Gyan Sahai. The knowledge portal we designed, it's very, very interactive. The search engine is so powerful. And that is how the learning is happening. Now the digital learning, the entire LMS system, we are shifting to more on the gamification, more on the smaller bites, micro learning, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. Now 30 minutes, they are not going to read it, because that is why adaptation is not happening. Having said so, I would say that classroom is not something which is irrelevant. It has to be blended, because ultimately when they come to the class, they have the peer learning, they have the experiential learning, and they are realizing it. Only thing that we need to make them understand, and also we need to understand them much more than what they need to understand us. That is very, very much important. And this is how the things are moving in terms of digital way of mental health. So like, for example, every day in the morning we are having yoga session, 7 to 7:45 throughout the country.
And many of them are, even we had a story yesterday, a young employee having visually challenged, visually impaired, she joins yoga session. Can you believe it? It's very difficult. She has someone to assist who guides her, and she takes all the asanas. We have the provisions like you can bring your toddlers when you are coming for the classroom programs. The bank is bearing the expenses for the caregiver. Bank is bearing expenses to house them. So we need to realize all those. There are many examples which are there in the organization, and I would proudly say that we are the first movers. We have taken a lot of steps in this regard, and then these things are really going to be very, very beneficial, not only for the Bank of Baroda, but also because this is the era of collaboration. It's not that something which is to be only for the Bank of Baroda. But we need to understand the purpose for which they are there. Because unless and until we align ourselves with the purpose for which they are in the organization, we will not be able to make them sustainable in the organization. Thank you.
Thanks, Sunil. I think I'm glad that you took some of the actual practicing examples, specific examples, what's happening in the workplace. Tripti, let me come back to you with a follow-up question. Of course, being a multinational, you get certain set of guidelines from your global headquarters. You have to be also mindful of what works in India. One example in relation with managing Gen Z or Gen X, right? Something which has been locally thought through, has been something which you have specifically deployed, keeping India-specific region in mind.
That's a great question, and I will also take some nuances from what my co-panelists have said. As you started off this panel, that this is an age of ambition, this is the age of purpose, and this is the age also of self-development. Like you said, I don't want to be taught, right? I know. You tell me, give access, and I will figure it out. So I believe it's an age of self-development. So I'll give two examples from an India perspective that I believe are making a lot of shift into our engagement, into our retention rates, lowering our attrition, and driving the organization forward. So just to give a context to everybody, Galderma India for last 4 years is growing at a CAGR of 49%. So hyper growth is anything that grows above 45% year on year, right? So we are in a hyper growth journey for over last 4 years. Our business has become 5 times its size in the last 4 years, and our ambition is to now double this in next 3 years. So that's the ambition. So we need to sustain the growth, right? And we identified 2 things, one on the learning space and one on the reward space. So we understood that to be in this journey, to hire, attract and retain talent, where e-commerce, consumer marketing, digital, this space is so large and so booming. It's a niche, still a niche space when it comes to pharma, right? It's far more evolved when it comes to consumer. So how do we, one, attract these people? They will have jobs every second year. They will come to you with papers every second year. So how do you keep them engaged so that despite they being offered more jobs, they stay with the organization? And how do we look at development as in career progression? So I'll give a very small example, rewards. So while there is a global rewards and recognition platform, we call it Galvanize. Everything is Gal for Galderma, right? So we call it Galvanize. It's purely online based. Then we said that while this is great, we need to amplify Galvanize in India. So we sat with our business heads on, like you said, sales and marketing. This is a sales and marketing organization. Sales, what does it mean? So we sat with our teams and we said, how do we reward and recognize our performers, our people who are living our values in sales? We put out a full-fledged platform for it. that left our head office employees, because head office, we believe that we are only driving everything in the organization, right? So that left our head office employees, and then we said, how do we engage this set and how do we recognize? Now that involves a lot from an HR team, because anything that doesn't fall anywhere will drop in the HR bucket. So there is a sales reward and recognition program, which is fairly simplistic in nature because there are numbers, etc., right? Then we designed a full-fledged head office recognition program. We call it Game Changers. We do it every quarter. There are nominations of teams and individuals that come in. Leadership team votes and recognizes top 15% of the work done in a ceremony where we send out a note, photos of people, give out. Then we use a global platform to give out rewards. And what that has done, this is the second year of it, what that has done is now people feel that everybody knows what I'm doing. In such a fast-paced organization where my colleague may not know, now every quarter my work gets showcased there. So people are driven, employees are driven, they feel that I have a platform to showcase my work. And that has driven a lot of engagement into workplace. Second is from a learning and development point of view. We realized year before last that while we need structured learning programs, we identify top learning, LNI, we do all of it. However, we need to identify some of the talent that we need to retain, we need to grow, and set a personalized learning program. So like I said, we have a manager e-commerce who has become a head of e-commerce for India and for South Asia, and now moving to a regional role in 3 years' time. So look at a career jump, look at a comp jump, and look at a position jump. So like that, very, very strong, high potential talent identification, sitting with them and saying what is it that they want to grow, rather than fitting them into a program. I think that has worked beautifully. And what it does is that creates a cascading effect in the organization that if I fit into this kind of performance and potential, I will also get it. So these are the two examples.
So that's really interesting, and I wish if we had the more time, obviously we would have continued with more examples. Okay, at this stage, I think it's important that we come back to you, participants here, dear friends here. Please feel free to ask questions to any of the panelists. Please be brief in your question. Of course, I see a couple of hands being raised. I'll request the volunteers to give them the mics. Please say your name, your organization, and if you have a specific question to any of the panelists, please name. Otherwise, I'll request any one of them to answer. And please be specific in terms of your question. Yes, sir.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Professor Sunil Gupta from Sir Padampat Singhania University at Udaipur. It's a JK Cement University. I've been into teaching for last 32 years. So when I started my career, I used to get filtered crowd. Today, I don't get a filtered crowd. And we have a judicious mix of corporates and academicians who are the luminaries in their respective field. So currently what we face, that there are students who have aspirations, but they lack competency and they don't want to hone their competency. So I want an answer from an academician in the panel as well as in corporate. So here there is a big gap between aspiration and competency required. So if you can give some tips which I can utilize and make our students better. Thank you.
So sir, if I understood correctly, you need tips how to enhance competency in the students. Is that what your question is?
I need tips to how to enhance competency when there is no willingness to improve the competency, but there is aspiration.
Okay, all right. He said questions to two academics, so.
Okay, very tough one because we face this also. See, I think part of the solution may be in the selection process itself, right? But like you rightly mentioned, right now there's not too much of filtering, so a lot of students get in. The other option is basically expectation setting in the beginning, right? Now, we know that students have a lot of aspirations. They want a 20-25 lakh job, but if you sit them in an interview, they'll probably not be able to give the interviewer the confidence that 15 lakhs is worth, right? So there's a huge gap. We accept it. Now, what are the tips? We normally, at Great Lakes, what we do is we normally do a lot of expectation setting in the beginning itself, right? Okay, so you've come into an MBA program, okay? Let's say that you are a fresher, you're looking at a 15 lakhs job or a 18 lakhs job. What are the skills that you need to get, and how we are going to help you, and how you have to help yourself, right? So we do a lot of this back and forth communication. We have a lot of those sessions regularly with the students, with the program directors, with the placement team, so that they understand that there is no free lunch, right? So it is about helping them to understand that somebody may have told you that you are an amazing person and that you have all the talent and you can do anything, but it doesn't happen automatically, right? So that is you have to be a little harsh with them sometimes and tell them that if you were told that you are a genius, probably that person misinformed you. Okay? Not everybody is a genius. Not everybody can get a 25 lakh job straight out of being a fresher. So that expectation setting and then giving them the right tools, resources, access and mentoring can help them a lot. So most of the B schools now have faculty mentoring a set group of students by analyzing their strong points, weak points, and then helping them to focus on the strong points, right? And also, I think most B schools, what we do now is do a complete study of the job descriptions which are coming in at different salary levels, right? Now, somebody who's aspiring for a 20 lakhs job or a 15 lakhs job, obviously it is very clear from the job description itself that the skills required are A, B, C, D. Now, that is where we go and tell them, the students, that you have A, you have a little bit of D, but B and C, you are almost zero. So if you want that job, you've got to prepare accordingly. So broadly, that's what I would like to recommend.
Thanks, Dr. Mathew. And sir, to your corporate answer, I'll suggest you to meet us during the break. Let me see if there are more questions here. Okay, we see here. There's a lady there. She raised her hand also prior to this.
Okay.
So hi, I'm Dr. Shruti Gill. I'm from ILM Lodi Road. So Mr. Bakshi, I think you had a great start to the panel discussion, and taking cue from there, I have a teenage son myself, so somewhere I could guess those words, close to it I was. So a couple of months back, I came across this term called ghosting on the first day of the workplace. And why the Gen Z or the Gen X is probably doing that is because they don't want to be bounded by any rules and regulations. They don't want to live in an ecosystem of a fixed mindset. So they're breaking free. So I would like to ask that how HR heads are you first of all facing this kind of a situation, and how you're dealing with the same? And it's not only ghosting on the first day of the work. I think it could be any kind of events or conferences or any meetings that we organize, and the Gen Next is disappearing from there.
Okay, Sudeep, you want to take? Or you want to take?
I think, fortunately, we haven't faced this challenge. And, but maybe, that maybe their mind, how we can, but my take is on that how we enable them with the right kind of environment, the right kind of processes, so that they should feel that, there's something there for me. And then we have to also see how we can align their purpose and passion, the larger purpose of their, and how we can align with the passion also. First, enable them, empower them to take a risk. Whatever, we're taking talent, we should empower them to take risks. I'm giving my organization an example. Every year we are celebrating Innovation Day, and we take nomination from an employee from the R&D or different part of a function. And today I'm receiving at least 60 to 70% innovation from my young talent. And and they are being sent for the different world, how the R&D is going on, what are the new technologies coming up. So this, and certainly, third thing is engaging them, enable them, empower them, and engaging them. Continuous have the dialogue, continuous connect with them. Then I think these are the few things which we do. I don't think that ghosting culture we can easily kill.
Thank you, Sudeep. And I think Sunil, sorry, you wanted to add something quickly? No? Is added? Okay. Great.
Thank you. Can we have more questions? Yeah, yes, sir.
Thank you for the chance. I am Binod Rai, Director DTI DVC. Damodar Valley Corporation is a very old organization. In fact, it is the first PSU of the country, started in 1947. Now we are in thermal power generation, hydro, and of course in renewable. The problem we are facing with this generation, Gen Z, because we have to recruit from that generation only. And thermal power plants cannot be in cities. They have to be in far-flung places, in rural places, the places which needs development. Now what happened, we offer good packages, good promotion policies and everything. But even then, when these new Gen Z people are placed in those places, they left from there. Now my question is from Pawan and Tripti. Pawan is also from an old banking organization. He must be having similar kind of problem. Now my first question from the industries, Pawan and Tripti, is that how we can address this, number one. And the second question from the academia, are they ready to prepare the student who can be fetched and placed there? Because I am visiting the campuses for recruitment. Many management new guys are coming from Delhi, Bangalore, Kolkata. Now they are assuming that when they will be placed, they will have all the facilities like they are having in these big cities. Thank you.
Sir, if I may request, we'll take just first question from the industry, right? If time permits, we'll come back to the second question.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Very good question. Actually, we are also a public sector and you are also a public sector. We have a set rule of recruitment also. Then we have more challenge than you because we have number of branches in the far rural areas also. See, now what is the requirement, what is the aspiration of these people? They want well-being, to be well-being, and initially when they join, your जो induction program है, that has to cater that thing. You have to make them prepare for this during that period. There is a requirement of mentoring, not teaching. You have to mentor them and you have to create the environment at that field itself so that they feel that they are being taken care of, their well-being. I will tell you one example. We were talking about mental health. So we were in a dilemma whether to have some psychologist on panel for providing teleconsultancy on this because we are public sector bank, very old bank, traditional bankers. So we were having this dilemma. 1 month back, we hired 2 psychologists, professionals, and it was open for every officer and staff. Within 1 month, more than 200 employees have consultancy. So this is the requirement today. There is a need of regular counseling, mentoring, taking feedback and coming back on their feedback. We implemented one project of HR transformation. In every public sector bank, I think whenever we implemented it, there was a lot of resistance to it because we are having a lot of unions, association, everything is there, that is also there. But proudly I say that we implemented for 52,000 officers. I had 30,000 queries on that. But there was no nuisance, there was no resistance. Queries were to adopt, to have some clarifications. The only reason was that their queries, I instructed my team, that queries, suggestion, everything, if it is not implementable, that has also to be responded. We did that. So I think if you create there that atmosphere and you make sure that they return to other places within the shortest possible time or fixed time period, that issue can be resolved to some extent.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pawan. And we just have a very less time left. One last question.
Yes, can I just add one line to the mental wealth?
Please.
So the students, mental wealth part about it, we had, psychological counselor, etc. One of the feedback that we got from the students was, he's 37 years old, this guy. Too old, he doesn't understand us. We want a psychological counselor who's almost like our age. So that was one challenge that we faced, and we've had to replace it. We had to get a much younger psychologist who understands the Gen Next kind of problems. Yeah.
Thank you. One last question. We have 3 hands here, so whoever gets lucky with the mic.
Good morning to Talent Masters and all of you. I am Shailendra Singh. I am with KRIPCO, Krishak Bharati Cooperative Limited, a leading Government of India cooperative. We have pan-India presence. I am an agriculture man. खून में मेरे मिट्टी मिट्टी में मेरा खून. So, sir, from yesterday onwards, we are discussing about the AI and all kind of thing. Actually, in agriculture,
so, sir, if you can come to the question.
Yeah, yes. In agriculture, just I want to ask the academia that we want the rural heroes. Are the academia preparing the AI-enabled heroes for the future of agriculture? Thank you very much.
Dr. Subir, you want to take?
Honestly, we are not prepared. Yeah. Honestly, we are not preparing. I think the kind of audience that we get, participants that we get in our colleges, they are much different from this kind of approach. Although we are preparing them in terms of courses and in terms of workshops and labs, so that they are able to do supply chain or do distribution or do marketing in the rural area. That is the maximum that we are doing, and not the tilling and how to run a tractor. We are not doing that.
Thank you, Dr. Subir. I know there were more hands up for the questions, but I'm sorry, time is almost up. Probably we can take the question during the tea break. We are here for some more time. Before I wrap up, I just want to ask you a very quick question, 15-20 seconds answer, right? And the question is common for all of you. I'll ask one by one. What is the one problem in relation with Gen Next in your organization? What is that one problem that you want to solve over the next few months or a year? One problem.
I don't see there is a problem. Problem is with us.
I think I agree with him over here. One problem or one challenge is how to make them more committed to the organization. So there has to be a better alignment.
Again, resonating what Sunil said, the problem is our lack of adaptability, because they are the future. We are sort of the past. We have got to adapt. It's our problem. Honestly, it is our problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one challenge which we can solve, we can accept, we can give the respect to the young generations, the thoughts, their views, their what they want in their long-term career. We should respect. We should give the completely engage with them. This is the one thing which we can resolve.
I believe leadership mindset, how we can continue to work, enhance leadership mindset of people who manage the young workforce as it coming, will be a continuous challenge always.
Okay. I think whatever Mr. Sunil and other panelists also told, I fully endorse that. And to address that, we have designed a leadership program for our senior executives. That is based on ontology, on beings, and we have imparted that coaching and sessions to all our senior executives, 1,000 officers from scale 5 and above, and continuously every year we are doing that, we are refreshing that.
Okay.
And that has given some results in business figures also.
Sure, thank you. You wanted to say something?
I want to say just one thing over here. One of my favorite movie is The Intern, where my favorite actor Robert De Niro is there. I think that's what we need to be. All this, we are all from the same generation. We should start behaving like an intern and enter an organization where a younger person like Anna Hathaway is there as the CEO.
What is the side effect of having a panel discussion like this? All of us who are not Gen Next, the so-called, in terms of our physical age, but in our mind, we tend to think and we tend to behave and we learn a lot of things, and that's what we have been watching since yesterday. Believe me, I was here a full day. But with that note, I must thank each one of you as a panelist. It has been fantastic. Let's please give a huge round of applause to them. It has been fantastic knowing you all, your thoughts, your comments, and the experience that you shared, examples. Obviously, as always, the time is always less for such a large panel of 6 people. But I'm sure our dear participants, if they have any other questions, they can catch hold of us during the break. Please feel free. But thank you once again. We really enjoyed having you together. Thanks, everyone.
A fantastic start to day 2, indeed. It has been made clear, and we are glad to see our leaders taking ownership and proposing that leadership needs to upgrade from the all authority-based model to collaboration and mentorship. With the evolving workforce, it's great to see all of you taking accountability and proposing it to our fellow leaders as well. We would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all these esteemed panelists and Mr. K.S. Bakshi for moderating today's session and making it practical, insightful, and perceptive. Now may I invite Mr. Mukesh Sharma, Head HR, ISRPL, to felicitate all the panelists. Requesting the whole panel to come together for a group photo.